Shalom, shalom. This is your girl Sade. So today we're going to be talking about the description of the ancient Hebrew Israelites based on ChatGPT information as I ask the questions. Now I've been using for the last maybe week. I've been using this ChatGPT, and a lot of the questions I asked them based on the research I've done. He pretty much gave the same information. So basically, it seemed like ChatGPT basically is able to pull all the information out there on the internet and combine it together and craft the way it answers your questions. That's brilliant. At the same time, it's kind of spooky too, because what it did was today it sent me a response asking me. I don't know if it's say he or it. It sent me a response asking me how the information that he provided to me, you know, how was it helpful? And not only how was it helpful, but based on the questions I was asking, what brought me to those questions? So I answered it, all the questions that it had for me. So I'm going to share that some other time, but I'm going to go ahead and share what it provided to me regarding the description of the ancient Hebrew Israelite. So it's a description. It says the ancient Hebrew Israelite, particularly those from the biblical period, particularly those from the biblical period, circa 2000 BCE to 586 BCE, were a Semitic people originated in the ancient Near East. Their appearance, culture, and way of life can be pieced together through a combination of archaeology evidence, biblical and historical texts, and ancient parts, like Egyptian, Assyrians, and Babylonian relief. Here's a detailed description based on credible resources. Ethnicity is one of the resources. Ethnicity, point 1. Ethnicity and origin, or DNA. It says the Israelites were a Semitic people closely related to other ancient Semite groups like the Canaanites, the Moabites, the Edomites, the Arameans, and the Amorites. They descended from Abraham, traditionally said to have come from Ur of the Chaldeans in Mesopotamia, migrating through Haran and Canaan. Now we know that also Mesopotamia is in a region where it's very hot, and we're going to get into that too. It says also, point 5, their culture and language, early Hebrew, were Canaanites in origin. Now I want to go back to the part where it says see, when I said see, next slide for the first point. So my question was, when he said the Israelites was a Semitic people, now we know that closely related to other ancient Semitic group, he named Canaanites as one of these Semitic groups. And we know that Canaan comes from Ham, which is from the descendant of Ham, which is one of Ham's son. Um, so so my question was, so how is it that Israelites are related to Canaanites as Semitic people? Because I thought Canaanites were Hamitic people. So let's go and explain it next. It says Canaan was the descendant of Ham, but spoke Semitic language. The Canaanites were descendant of Ham, according to the Bible, Genesis 10, and that makes them Hamites by genealogy. At the same time, they spoke a Semitic language, which means that linguistically and culturally, they are part of a Semitic speaking world, but not genealogically descended from Shem, which makes sense. So I thought I inserted this because I had that question about Canaanites being related to Israelites as far as Semitic. And I'm like, wait a minute, I know the Canaan came from Ham, so it explained, and now I understand. So hopefully this helps someone else too. Climate change, climate in ancient Israel. So it talks about the climate and how it relates to Egypt and Canaan. So first it said climate in ancient Israel, which is in Canaan. Time period 15,000 BCE through 580 BCE. It says geography, mountainous region, valley, and coastlines, coast plains. It says, so that's the location. And it says the summer, long, hot, and dry. A daytime temperature, 28, um, and then 35, 28 Fahrenheit, I guess, to 35, and then 82 degrees to 100 degrees. And then in Jordan Valley, and it says Negev often exceed 40, 40 Fahrenheit and 104 degrees. And it's winter, mild and rainy, especially in the hills country, temperature 10 to 18, and then 50 to 65 um, degree. Rainfall, it says seasonal, mostly November, March, Mediterranean climates. And that's the ancient climate in ancient Israel, which is located in Canaan, or right now they call it Palestine. So actually, Israel has been called Canaan, Palestine. It was called another Galilee. First it was Galilee, then it was Canaan, and then now they have today it's called Palestine, according to the dictionary, one of the historical dictionaries. Climate in the ancient Egypt. Now the reason I asked for the climate in ancient Egypt because ancient Egypt and also Israel was part of ancient Egypt. Well, they were part of the same mass of Northeast Africa. But in 1869, around November, they changed it from Northeast Africa to Middle East. And when they built this Suez Canal, so it was one land mass. Because if Jesus and Mary walked to Egypt from Jerusalem, that means that it was one mass because they walked. And ChatGPT had to agree with that too. That's another question I had asked. But it says climate in ancient Egypt. Climate in ancient Egypt. Time period 3000 BCE through 30 BCE. Geography, Nile Valley, desert on both sides. Summer extremely hot and dry. You see the figures here. Temperature 35 to 45, 95 to 113 in Upper Egypt. Often reach over 40 C and then 104 in Thebes and Aswan. Winter mild and sunny, temperature 10 to 20 and 50 to 70 degrees. It says rainfall very little to none, less than 1 inch actually. So that means that the people that was living in this region was melanated people. They had to have melanin in their skin. That's the point of me asking them for the climate between both of those ancient countries. Now it talks about the physical appearance of the ancient Israelites. It says the physical appearance from ancient source and art, skin color, likely a dark to brown to reddish brown complexion, as many Israelites lived in the Levant and had similar appearance to surrounding Afro-Asiatic people. Hair texture, ancient depiction like the language relief in Britain Museum and text suggests thick, curly, or woolly hair, often worn in locks or braided. Facial feature typically include broad noses, full lips, and strong bone structure, similar to neighboring population like the ancient Egyptians and Cushites. Beards, men commonly wore beards, often styled in neat curls or locks, as seen in Assyrian reliefs of Hebrew captivities. So here's some pictures of these are paintings of the ancient Israelites. I don't know if you would call that a fro. Then I got a scarf over his head. You know how brother used to wear these scarves over their head? Oh, that's what it looked like. But anyway, this is just a painting. Now notice I'm gonna show you another painting, but I wait till I get to that one. So here they are. Now this is actually on the ancient wall of Assyrian, I think, right here. And it also had these carvings on Babylonian. All their captivities, they kept drawings of the ancient Hebrews when they were into captivity, slaves. Not just It wasn't just one civilization. It was not just, it was all the captivity, the Assyrian captivity, the Babylonian captivity. So these are some depictions. Here's some more depiction. They go into captivity. See the broad nose, the eyes, the ears, the hair here, or short hair with a short beard. Again, the cheekbones, the eyes, the broad nose. Um, Now this picture here, I have it in a encyclopedia, history encyclopedia, and it says that these are actually ancient, are the painting of the ancient Israelites, but some people say they're Egyptians. So you decide. Now, this picture here, I have the book with the actual, you see how they changed uh, the color? So it's like in the actual book I have, in the actual book I have, it shows this whole section here, the whole book, show them this depict them of this color, this shade right here. You see how they're lighting it up here? And here again are the going into captivity with their hands bound and features here, um, the hair, the beard. These are clearly Negroid features and so forth. And here they are again, Israelites in Babylonian captivity. This playing instruments. This is their beard, their hair, beards here, and see the nose at. I don't know if you can see my arrow, but if you look at the very top and look at the features, and then you look at the very bottom, it shows a close up of the hairstyle. So they actually wore many different hairstyles, short, long. Some had turbans over their head with their braids hanging out or their hair hanging out. Historical description. It says historically descriptions. Greek and Roman writers like Tacitus, not Tacitus, I said Tacitus, Strabo and Diodorus Siculus sometimes describe Jews as looking Ethiopian-like or having a dark skin tone, which supports their Afro-Asiatic origin. On third point, ancient Egyptians art from tombs and temples often depicted Asiatic, including Hebrews with brown skin, black hair, and distinctive dress, the way they dress. Clothing and culture. So, and this is our chat GPT information. It says clothing and culture. Men wore tunics, or they call it cantonet, girdles and cloaks. Similon, I guess I'm pronouncing it right, often barefoot or wearing simple sandals. Women wore long dresses, often with veils or head covering. And the third point was culture practices, semi-nomadic at first. They were herders, sheep, and goats. Later settled in cities like Jerusalem and practiced farming, trade, and temple worship. And that's the clothing and culture. Now, ChatGPT asked for a description, and this is what it gave me. Clothing and culture. So remember it said that sometimes bare feet or sandals? This is how the ancient men wore their attires or clothing. Okay. Now here they are going into captivity, and this is the Assyrian captivity. If you look at the bottom, you see their bare feet right here. No shoes on at all, bare feet, just like the description said. That normally go bare feet or sandals. Now this is just a modern day photo that I was looking at. Also, it talks about the turban. And if you go back, I don't know if it's going to allow me to go back. I don't think it's going to allow me to go back. It's not. But anyway, they also said they were turbans, and they would wear with their hair out sometime or just full turbans over their heads. There's another clothing and culture. How this is what ChatGPT sent me for ancient Egyptian art from tomb and temples, often depict Asiatic Hebrew with brown skin, black hair, and distinctive dress. Women wore long dress, often with veils or head covering. Veils or head covering. Here's a 12 tribes chart here, or not chart, but 12 tribes stone. And her band with her jewelry. Here's another clothing and culture. Women wore long dresses, often with veils or head covering. Here's another photo he gave me. It says archaeological evidence. Archaeological evidence. The language relief Assyrian walls carving from the 701 BCE show Hebrew captives with curly hair beards, and Semitic facial feature. Egyptian tomb of Kanu-Hotep II at Beni Hussein shows Semitic Asiatic people with dark skin and braided or curly hair, likely similar to early Hebrew. And that's based on archaeology evidence. Here again, if you look at this one here, it looks like he have a turban with his hair out here. This individual just fully hair, you know, barefoot, long robes. And this is from the British Museum, the language captivity. And just here's another photo from from the website, and it shows them going into Egypt with their cattle. It says summary. The ancient Hebrews were a dark-skinned Semitic people with Afro-Asiatic roots, sharing many features with other ancient people of Northeast Africa and the Levant. They were physically described and depicted as having curly or woolly hair, medium to dark brown skin, and its features consist with East African and Canaanite population. It asked me would you like reconstruction images based on these historical description. I've already showed you all the photos of the women and the men and how they was dressed and their clothing, what they wore, and so forth. So y'all, this is the end of the slide. I thought I would share that. Hope you enjoyed it, and I guess I see you at another time. Shalom.